Transform all your company's milestones, big or small, into impact with Impact Hero. Whether it's a sale, a new hire, a demo booked, or anything else, with Impact Hero, you automatically generate a gift that matters, like a tree planted, a kilo of plastic recovered, or a piece of coral reef restored. Join the hundreds of companies that are already boosting sales and retention while making an impact. Go to impacthero.com/podcast now to get 10% off. Again, that's impacthero.com/podcast to get 10% off.
Welcome to another ClimateTech podcast, interviews with the people trying to save us from ourselves. This was an especially rewarding experience talking with today's guest because not only did I get to speak with Aneta Londa, the founder of Moonshot Pirates, but I also got to meet two incredible young changemakers, Anita and Elanu Karakos, the winners of this year's Shape the Future Challenge, convened by Moonshot Pirates. I reached Aneta in Austria, Annie in Greece, and Elanu in Turkey. I'm Ryan Grant Little. Thanks for being here. This is a very special episode because I get to introduce two amazing initiatives. The first is Moonshot Pirates and its Shape the Future Challenge. And the second is AEIFLORIA, which is the winner of that challenge itself. And joining me are some of the founders of both. So I have on the line Aneta, Annie, Elanu. Hello, welcome to the podcast.
Hey.
Hi, it's great to be here.
To be here with you.
Aneta, let's start with you because you're the founder of Moonshot Pirates. You're the person who made all of this happen. What is the organization about? It's got an awesome name. Give us the 101.
Right. So Moonshot Pirates, we are a global platform which is designed to empower young changemakers to tackle some of the world's biggest challenges. We provide resources, mentorship, and a supportive community to help young people, especially those that are between the ages 15 and 25, to turn their innovative ideas into impactful solutions. And really our mission here is to, bridge the gap between the traditional education and those real world readiness, which gives really young people the tools and the confidence they need to become the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs.
And you have a background working with entrepreneurs in ClimateTech, working with young people. How did the idea come about? And maybe give a bit of history about the organization.
Right. So we have started back in 2019, and the idea came from, maybe I introduce a bit of my story, how I grew up. I grew up in a small town in Czech Republic with not really that many, opportunities to get involved in entrepreneurship or innovation. And I took this traditional path of going to school, getting good grades, going to university, finding a good job, and eventually being successful and happy, right? And I was 27. All of it happened. I had a good job, well paid, moved to Austria, but I had a major, major burnout. And I simply realized that the things that I was doing didn't really follow the purpose that I was having within me. It didn't really align with my values. And back then I joined another community, TEDx community in Austria. And there I met incredible founders, change makers, innovators. And I saw what was possible when the right people connect and the right knowledge is given to you, right? And that was the moment where we were thinking, hey, wait a second, maybe so the people don't end up like me, 27, having good grades, good university, good job, but being completely burned out because, what they are doing doesn't align with their passion. What if we do something for young people out there? What if we help them to figure out what they are passionate about and how can they make an impact from an early age?
Amazing. And what are some of the different programs? So we're going to talk today about the Shape the Future Challenge, but what are some of the different kind of pillars that you work with, and how does the program, or how does Moonshot Pirates kind of express itself and work as part of a broader ecosystem?
Right. So, we have kind of three pillars that we always focus on. The first one, if you want to make a difference, it always starts with you, right? So it's a lot of personal development. We kind of call it moonshot thinking. That's why we are called Moonshot Pirates. But it's also this piratey way to figuring out what you want, what are your strengths, what are your skills, and maybe not going the traditional way. So that's kind of this personal development pillar. The second one is look, sure, we can develop the next game or a startup that makes a lot of money, but if it doesn't contribute to solving some of the world's biggest challenges, what are we doing here, right? So the second pillar is really look around you. What are the challenges that our world is facing, and how can you contribute in solving them with the use of amazing technologies that are out there nowadays and that can be used just, through your phone nowadays, really. So that's the second pillar. And the third pillar is, one thing is knowing about yourself and knowing about those problems and technologies. But if you do not do anything with that, well, it goes to waste, right? So the third pillar is really taking action. And we do that through entrepreneurship and innovation. So this is the pillars that our programs are based on.
That's brilliant. And I often lament that, my generation, the millennials, over the past 10 years, some of the greatest minds were put into finding ways to get your groceries delivered 2 minutes faster. And so it's great to see a bit of a reset here with some purpose. Shape the Future Challenge. I have some numbers here. 1,500 people, age 15 to 25, as you said, from 90 countries.
Yeah.
How did you manage this? So, as someone who puts together events from time to time, just from a purely tactical perspective, I'm really curious how you're able to put this together and get that kind of throughput.
So, the numbers that you just mentioned are actually numbers just from the recent challenge that we've had. But maybe let me give you a bit of the bigger picture. So, as I said, we started Moonshot Pirates back in 2019. It was really a small boot camp in Austria. And since then, we've seen an amazing growth. And I know for some people that was a really tough period, but for us, when COVID hit, we moved a lot of our programs online, which really, really helped us to expand globally. And since then, we had the privilege, and I say really privileged because those young people, and we will hear it today from Ani and Elanu, they're amazing. We had the privilege of working with over 12,000 young people from over 150 countries. And I think it's all about the way you communicate your mission, the vision, the thing that you stand for that attracts the right people, because we couldn't do this alone, right? So we started small, but we were thinking big, and we leaned a lot on social media, word of mouth, but also on strong partnerships and the incredible dedication of our mentors and volunteers. So over the years, we had, I think it's right now, around 15,000 net mentorship hours from our network of 450 people supporting these change makers. We had incredible partnerships with Volkswagen Group, UniCredit Bank, SOS Children's Villages, and we also recently closed a strategic partnership with, for instance, Esther Wojcicki, which is the person at education, a so-called godmother of Silicon Valley. And she has also 3 pretty successful children. So she knows what she's talking about when it comes to raising young people. One of her daughters is the former CEO of YouTube, for instance. And with that, we also hope to expand our programs more and more, for instance, in the United States.
Okay, so with partners like that and an alumni of 15,000 people so far who are going to go on to do great things and found great companies, I'm expecting that in 5 years, you're going to have a bigger endowment than Harvard University and be able to scale things even more. So let's talk about the Shape the Future Challenge itself. So this is not the first one. What are some of the past ones? How has it evolved? What are some of the different kind of topics that you've covered? And what was the theme of the one we're talking about today?
All right. So the Shape the Future Challenge, it's really a 6-week journey where young people from all over the world come together to tackle big issues, such as was the last one, which was all about climate change. But there are also challenges that we run on the future of mobility. We are going to run on the future of food very soon, as you mentioned, on energy and other topics that we have in our store. We can say that. And within the challenge, basically, the young people come together and they work in teams and are guided by really experienced mentors from the field to develop innovative solutions for some of those biggest challenges that we just talked about. And then they pitch it to a panel of experts. And in the end, there is a winner, which today we have Ani and Elanu here, and they will share a bit more about that. But the reason why we are kind of running those challenges is that, it really resonates with the mission that we have here. And it is really about empowering young people to make a real difference. maybe I can put some stats here into the conversation.
Please.
When you look at the current generation Z, you can call it, right? Gen Z, those are aged between 12 and 27. They are really on the track to become the largest and the most diverse generation in history. And there is a recent study, I think was done by Zen Business, that shows that 93% of Gen Zs has already taken steps toward exploring their business ownership, and 75% of them want to eventually launch their businesses. The problem here is, that's what we see, and that's why we are running those Shape the Future challenges, is that the traditional entrepreneurship education isn't really cutting it. It's too focused on theory. It doesn't tolerate failure, and it really lacks this real world resources and network to make a real difference. And that's where the Shape the Future challenge comes in, to bridge really the gap, offering young people the resources, the mentorship, and the network they need to tackle those challenges heads on.
And so this last challenge was about climate change, and in particular, fighting climate change. And we'll hear from some of the winners in just a moment. But can you talk about some of the other amazing projects that you saw that didn't make it through the finish line, but that really stick out in your mind a couple of months after the challenge ended?
Yeah, right. So the Shape the Future challenge really always brings quite amazing and forward-thinking ideas. And we need to think of these young people. I don't know, any Ilano, how old are you?
I'm 18. And I'm 16.
Right. So we have, those 16 to 20-year-olds coming together to develop these impactful solutions within the 4 to 6 weeks period. And some of the teams that stuck with me in my mind from the previous challenges that we've been running, there was, for instance, a team, the name was Entrepreneurs, and it was a team of high school students from Austria who in just 4 weeks developed an AI system that took traffic camera video streams to evaluate risk and prevent accidents. So they could really tell you if an accident is happening even before it happens. A second project was a Team Loop, was a 16-year-old girl from Las Vegas and I think 18-year-old boy from Mexico. And they developed a wristband that can detect if you're getting a seizure through sweat compounds and give you a notification to lay down, find a safe space, notify your close ones. And I think the last project that I want to also mention, and that's maybe not success story from the project itself that was developed, but the follow-up, what happened with that project, which is, I think, really important because we are still in education business, right? It was a project, Firefly was one of the first challenges that we ran, which aimed to revolutionize the way we tackle wildfires. So they use drones and a sound vortex to push the wildfires away. And one of those founders, the project didn't eventually, it didn't happen, right? Because it didn't simply fit all the or check all the boxes that needed to implement. But one of the founders, through this path, discovering what she was passionate about, she's decided to skip a college after the challenge and start her own prop tech company called Faura in New York. So she moved from Las Vegas to New York, and now she's really tackling climate-related insurance challenges, for instance, and just got funding of $500,000 for the first round of funding. So these are really just some examples of the incredible projects and stories coming out of our challenges. And there are so many more on personal level and the project level.
That's incredible. You could do an entire challenge just on wildfires right now, right? It's such a massive issue. Speaking as a Canadian, where we now have our annual wildfire season, and it's a total travesty. Annie, Alanu, so first of all, massive congratulations on your win. This is a very, very competitive group, obviously, and just phenomenal that you took the top place. So AEIFLORIA, this is your winning project. Something about bees and flowers. Talk to us.
Exactly. So thank you so much. I'm going to start with a little fun fact here about how our name came to be. So AEIFLORIA, it's actually one word, but two words combined. So Ai, which means forever in Greek, in ancient Greek actually, and Floria comes from flora. And another part, so when we combine it, AEIFLORIA, it reminds us of another Greek word, which is euphoria, which essentially also means sustainability in Greek. So it's kind of like forever flowers and sustainability. And this is kind of how our name came to be. But let's also dive a little bit deeper into the problem and the solution and what exactly it is that we thought of creating.
Yeah. So to shape the future challenge, all of the teams focus on climate change and its effects, right? One thing an effect that climate change has on our ecosystem that not a lot of people know about is that it reduces the production of bee attracting scents and nectar from flowers. So these climate stress flowers no longer attract enough bees, and the bees can no longer find enough nutrition because they cannot find the flowers. And this is a vicious cycle. It keeps on and on. And right now, there's not a lot of solutions in place. So we wanted to break this vicious cycle and redesign our solution.
And this is exactly what it does, essentially. It disperses artificial scent across flower fields to help bees get guided back to these nectar hotspots. And actually, in a few flower species, by increasing that bee-flower interaction, which is what our flower aims to do, nectar and pollen production gets also increased, and the nutrients that they produce also get increased. So essentially, it's kind of a win-win situation. Bees get guided back to flowers, flowers get pollinated, and bees get the nutrients that they need in order to continue thriving and continue guiding this positive cycle forward.
And are these actual flowers? Like, are they synthetic flowers? Do they look like flowers to try to kind of trick the bees into going and pollinating them? Or what should we imagine this, paint the picture of what this actually looks like and kind of how it's on a field, who's putting it there, and how the whole thing works?
It's like a toy, more like a toy. Yeah, it's a 3D printed flower shaped unit. It's just like a toy. Think about like a children's flower. I think I had something similar when I was a kid, and a farmer is supposedly just dig a little hole and plant that toy into the soil, and that our smart flower will disperse bee attracting scents, and then the bees in the field will find our toy, but then also find the flowers that are next to our toy.
Amazing. Okay, so there's real flowers around there, and this is just kind of like the decoy that's putting off the scent and bringing the bees there. And then once they're within that distance, it's close enough that they can smell the other flowers.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's brilliant. And so do you need one per field? Do you need 100? Are you talking to farmers? What are they kind of saying about what this would actually look like in practice?
So it really depends on the size of the field that we're talking about. Our goal with making these units small was to not limit them to, big farms, but also make them accessible to smaller farmers if they want to include them in their fields. Yes, it would take a little bit more of actual, testing in said fields to understand where the efficiency goes and where we would need to add another one. But yes, we're talking probably, if it's a very big field, probably more than 10 units per field. But again, testing here would be needed. We've talked to a few flowers. Maybe Alana, you can add a little bit more here because you were the one who had the conversations. But yeah, definitely a lot more real world testing needed to answer that 100%, but more than 10 units if it's quite a big field.
I work with a lot of companies who plan to open up shop in or expand across Europe. My one big piece of advice: don't fall into the trap of setting up a new entity right away. Instead, talk to my friends at Paracar, who can help you get up and running without all the costs, not to mention the legal and HR hassle. When I was hiring in different EU countries, I wanted my team to focus on their work, not on the country's bureaucracy. After interviewing a half-dozen international expansion firms, I chose Paracar because they were by far the most knowledgeable and they're great people. Whether you're a large multinational looking to expand abroad, a small business looking for the right talent, or a contractor, they'll sort it out. Book a free, no-obligation consultation right now at paracar.eu/climate. That's PARAKAR.eu/climate.
Yeah, we're talking with farmers right now, and we want to do our pilot testing to understand the exact question that you asked us. But one answer that we have is that if it's a bigger field, we'll need more units. But the thing about bees is that they're actually really smart animals, right? And if we can just point them to where the flowers are, we just can, like, if we just can help them, and then we don't really need much of these units to kind of make our fields have a mesmerizing scent that can, even we can like follow around. Like, no, these are smart. We just need to give them a little push.
I mean, it sounds like a really cost-effective solution as well. It's like a scent diffuser that looks like a flower. And the issue isn't that the bees have lost their ability to smell. It's that the flowers don't smell as strongly. And so you can't kind of, it's out of radar range for them, basically. So, I mean, it sounds like a really elegant solution in its simplicity and its biomimicry as well.
Yeah, and actually we were looking into existing solutions, which is part of the reason why we ended up going with bees as well. And the lack of help, in that sector was that they were not only, cost intensive, but also very labor and time consuming. Like one solution that currently exists is to go and individually spray flowers with said synthetic smell. So someone would actually need to go out in the field with a spray bottle and spray, long hectares of their fields with the scent to attract bees, or, buy bees to actually, take them to your field. There are a lot of solutions that we simply thought, hey, let's maybe try to create something better. And this is how it came to be, how AEIFLORIA came to be.
Let's talk a little bit about bees themselves, because there's very little knowledge, I think, out there. I learned a fair bit about bees through a company called Meli Bio, which makes like a synthetic honey, and it's a very, very cool startup out of Slovenia. And I've just planted a whole bunch of English lavender, because I literally Googled like, what is a plant that I can put in a sunny balcony that just won't die? Because I cannot keep plants alive, at least not outside.
You, me both.
Yeah. And then of course, what happens if you plant lavender is you start to get very acquainted with bees. So they've been on my mind the past few weeks as I've been sitting with my laptop next to the window and seeing lots of them. But why don't you kind of take it away and talk a bit about what's special about bees and maybe why they're so important to ecosystems?
Yeah, so the thing with bees and pollination is that it drives plant reproduction. It is essentially how the majority of plant species are able to, continue going for plant generations to come, if that's something that can be said. And that not only goes for like flowers. So yes, it does go for flowers, us seeing beautiful landscapes with gorgeous flowers. That's mostly the work of bees, and through pollination, they're able to help flowers reproduce. But it also goes for food production. So for example, strawberries, coffee beans, heavily relying on pollination for their reproduction. And also other plants such as cotton, which is used in the textile industry, that also partially has to do with pollination to continue thriving. So this is why they're very, very important to the ecosystem, because if they do not exist, we need to find other ways to keep, all of these flower species going and thriving, which would be very challenging to do. So I think this is where mostly the importance of bees comes from when we talk about, how ecosystems rely on them.
And food systems as well. So you just touched on that. And so probably when people think about bees and food, they think just about honey, but it actually goes a lot deeper than that. And part of this is because of pollination. I watched back your winning pitch this week, and there were some very interesting stats that you had there as well. And I wonder if you want to share some of those about what bees mean to the food system globally.
Yeah. 85% of our food supply in the world, that depends on the 30-second interaction between a plant and a bee, so the pollination. And, if the bees population keeps declining as it is right now, rice and grains will be our diet. And that does not sound appealing to me, right? We humans, we enjoy having our choices, fruits, veggies, meats. So we need to find a way to realign the bee population so that we make sure that our food supply is intact and we have our choices. And also pollinators like bees, they contribute to over $500 billion to agriculture landscape. That is a lot of money. And well, money is money. We care about it as much as we care about food. And that's why bees hold so much more importance than I think a lot of people realize.
That's almost as much money as the Moonshot Pirates endowment will be worth in 5 years. I wonder, is this the only idea that you looked at? Was it bees right from the beginning? Or were there some other ideas that you played around with and you landed on this one?
Yeah, we had a lot of ideas in the beginning. All of us are very passionate about climate change, and the challenge itself was about climate change. So we looked into different problems such as dam failures, inefficiency of vertical farming lights, and wildfires. So a lot of variety because there are a lot of problems to solve, right? But we landed on these because of the problems' hidden importance and the lack of solutions in the place. Also, some of my teammates, including me, we have personal connection to agriculture. I have a farmer family members, my grandparents are farmers, and I see how the crop yields or like just general the landscapes affected is being affected by the declining bee population. You don't see bees anymore. The flowers, they're not as colorful as they were. And we knew that this needed to be solved, and we realized that we could be the ones to solve it.
Annie, you're in Greece, Elano, you're in Turkey. You have two other co-founders, Mariam's in the UAE and Katerina's in Ukraine. And I wonder, that's international founding team as I think I've probably ever seen. How did you all meet? How did you put this together? How did you decide to compete in this challenge together?
So actually, let me take it from the very, very beginning of how we met. So 2 years ago, we both started on a program called the Knowledge Society, or TKS for short, which is based in Canada.
That's you and Elanu?
Me, Elanu, Mariam, and Katerina.
Oh, okay. All of you, all four of you.
Yeah, all four of us. And it's based in Canada, TKS, but it has a global virtual program. And this is where we all got acquainted, sitting in our computers, going on weekly calls. And TKS actually resembles the mission of Moonshot Pirates a lot. So the description that TKS has is kind of Olympic training for innovators. It's a year-round program. It's 10 months. So we would go every week on weekly calls, 3-hour sessions, learning about problems, learning about real-world skills, getting acquainted with what it really means to make a solution a reality, what it means to, have moonshot thinking. That's actually one of the projects that we had to do as a moonshot project. So you can understand how we're naturally drawn towards that direction. But this is where we met, through TKS. And it was kind of through all of these projects that we got acquainted. And Elanu, I think here can add a little bit more on how exactly, we went towards Moonshot Pirates at the end.
Yeah, so we did 2 years of TKS, and towards the end, we worked on a challenge that TKS provided. And that's when we worked as a team for the first time. And through the end, we realized that we have so much complementary skill sets. We have a similar ways of thinking, but also can raise the questions that needs to be raised to understand where we are lacking. So when the program was ending, we thought, hey, we need to keep working together. We can make something so impressive. So we have to find a way to keep working because we knew that we just enjoyed doing that and we were successful. So Mariam shared the link of Moonshot Pirates and say, hey, let's try this one. And we were like, yes, of course, let's go. And we had so much fun working together. And I think doing that step forward, so with international teams, it's really hard to keep being connected, right? Keep in touch. And by kind of getting out of our zone where we met and keep working together, we really make our relationship even more connected. And when this comes into the prize section, but when we met in real life, I think it's going to be a lot more fun and exciting.
Okay, this is amazing. So as you're talking, I'm thinking you've been working together for 2 years. The four of you have probably not even met in real life yet.
We haven't, no.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And I wanted to ask you if you get a prize as the winners of Shape the Future. I think you just answered that, Elanu, and it sounds like it's going to be an amazing reunion.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool prize. We're going to get to meet all together in San Francisco, which is, if you told me a year ago that I would get to meet some of my best virtual friends in person in the US, from Greece, Turkey, Ukraine, and the UAE, I would have told you not even in my wildest dreams, honestly. But yeah, we're going to get to meet all together in person pretty soon. And it's amazing because, as Elanu said, it's hard to form relationships online, like through a screen. Like for the most part, I've only seen, that the top part of the faces of these people. And it's crazy because, when you get to establish so close friendships without even having ever met in person, you can understand how really you are able to click with these people. So just getting the chance to finally meet in person, I think it's going to be amazing. Apart from all of the other cool things we're going to do on the trip. Like, don't get me wrong, we're super, super excited for all of the things as well, and getting to push our idea forward too. That's going to be thrilling, but especially getting to meet each other in person. I think this is just something else, like something I would have never imagined actually happen, and very, very excited for that.
And you don't have to pay for it, even better. So what comes next? So you said pushing the idea forward. Presumably the four of you all have university ahead potentially as well. But what happens with the project now?
Yeah, so our teammates, we are all in different stages of life. Some of us are going into university this year. Some of us are taking gap years, and well, Annie is still in high school. But one thing that we have common is that we all are so passionate about bringing solutions to the world that are going to have impact in presumably the climate sector. And we have something in our hands. We have AEIFLORIA, and we're so excited moving this forward as much as we can. And we want to take a prize trip to plan accordingly and understand what can we do now. Is the timing right? And what are the next steps forward? But whatever our decision comes to be, I know for a fact that the passion that we have to build things that matter, you're going to hear our names, maybe with different projects, but still the same impact.
Amazing. I love that. And I love that you're focused on projects that matter. That's such an important distinction. And so what comes next? You're going to go on this trip sometime soon. You're going to meet up. School continues. Do you see long-term futures as climate warriors?
I think it's in my head, doing something to fight against climate change doesn't necessarily have to be I'm working on a climate tech project. Essentially, I think whatever you're doing, even if it's something in the healthcare sector or in deep tech, you can always, if you're a climate warrior, you're a climate warrior. Let me tell you that, if you're climate conscious, it comes in any project that you do. So I would say absolutely, because as Alanu said, we do have that passion about, making it real and changing the world and doing that, caring about the environment. So I think no matter if we continue working on a climate tech project, or if we go down different paths, I think this is always that climate consciousness is always going to exist no matter what path we end on.
For the greater good. Yeah, it's interesting, that we have this view that everyone has to be a startup founder. But on the podcast, I have comedians, artists, policymakers, of course, investors, activists, lots of activists as well. So there are lots of ways to make a difference in climate. Aneta, I'm going to turn it to you for the last word. And that is for people who are as impressed as I am right now and want to get involved with Moonshot Pirates or the next Shape the Future Challenge, what's the best way for them to do that?
Right. But first of all, thank you so much for having us, Ryan. And thank you for everything you do, bringing different people together from different parts of life to really share how they are making a difference in their own way. We hear it from Annie and Alanu already, you don't have to be the climate warrior, but you need to, do your own work to make this world a little better. So thank you for that. And so how can the listeners get involved? And I hope that after hearing Annie and Alanu, they really do. I mean, we are always on a lookout for amazing partners who believe in our mission, right? So all of our programs are free for these young change makers, we call them, and we really depend on partners that want to help the next generation to acquire the right mindset and the skills to make a difference in our world. So, and on the other hand, of course, the partners can get so much from working with these young change makers. Annie recently also gave an interview talking about this naivety of a young person, which is actually a good thing because the solutions that the young people come up with for those big challenges are really out of the box creative solutions that you might not come up in your daily, business. So it's really, there is a huge benefit also for companies to collaborate with these change makers. And so our next big event, and you already mentioned it at the beginning, is the next Shape the Future Challenge, actually, which this time is going to be focusing on something that is really close to me as a passionate vegan, actually. And it's going to be on shaping the future of food. We are going to be diving into a topic of alternative protein, but also feeding the next, billions of people in our world. And how can we do that? How can we provide affordable nutrition? We are doing it this October, November in partnership with a Swiss company called Givaudan, actually. But there is always a place for more partners to jump in. So that's the start. We have also future challenges planned on the future of mobility, energy, climate change. And we also, for those that want to get involved even deeper, we are starting our Launchpad program, which is an accelerator for more advanced ideas, where it's not just about the idea development, but really going from that ideation to bringing it to market. We have different mentorship programs, Gen Z advisory boards as well. So if you're interested in joining Moonshot Pirates, becoming a Moonshot Pirate, whether it is, becoming a partner or a mentor, we work with incredible experts from all around the world. You can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can visit our website, moonshotpirates.com, and simply, get in touch. And, for me, I truly believe that we can only make a change if we collaborate together, whether it's the young people, whether it's the companies, the startups, the experts, the industry. Only like that we can, make a difference and hopefully make this world a bit better than it is right now.
As always, relevant links in the show notes. Aneta, Elanu, Annie, what a pleasure. You made my week. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another ClimateTech podcast. It would mean a lot if you would subscribe, rate, and share this podcast. Get in touch anytime with tips and guest recommendations at hello@climatetechpod.com. Find me, Ryan Grant Little, on LinkedIn. I'll be back with another episode next week. Bye for now. This episode is supported by Grizzle, B2B content to create and capture demand. I first met Grizzle's founder, Tom Watley, 5 years ago at a conference in Dublin. I was so impressed that I signed a deal with him to do all my software company's content that same evening at the pub. Remember that, Tom?
Kinda.
And they're still doing it 2 years after we sold the company because the new owners love Grizzle as much as I do. If you sell B2B, book 30 minutes in Tom's calendar at grizzle.io/climate. That's GRIZZLE.io/climate.